Honda has just unveiled the first images of the official Honda HR-V for the US market, and I think this is a pretty interesting design, so I just wanted to quickly make this video because at first glance it looks like a very conservative design, both in its graphics and styling, proportions, everything. But at the same time, when I look at the front end of this car, it has some very interesting features that, even though it is very conservative, it still makes it a clean, pure Honda. And here is our new foster kitten, by the way. Orla, want to say hello to YouTube community. Hello everybody. Orla, you should be tired by now. Aren't you gonna go to sleep? I guess not. So the outgoing HR-V used the same platform as the old Honda Fit hatchback, which has now been discontinued. However, the new 2023 model is going to share the same platform as the beautiful Honda Civic. And the wheelbase is longer, and you now also get independent rear suspension. There's no information about the powertrain, official information at least from Honda. All they say is that it will be powered by a more responsive engine. That's all you get for the information about the powertrains. It will possibly be the 180 horsepower turbocharged 1.5 liter inline-four that you find in the Civic. This would be a nice power boost over the old 141 horsepower inline-four in the previous generation. In addition, Honda might also offer the naturally aspirated 158 horsepower 2-liter engine inline-four as the HR-V base engine. Front-wheel drive will probably be the standard option here with in the lower trims, and then you can have all-wheel drive as an option if you like to. Unfortunately, the new HR-V is only going to be available as an automatic, so you don't get the Honda Civic manual transmission in this, which I think suits probably the overall segment of what this little SUV is, right, Orla? Alright, so now let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at this design. Let's start with the most interesting view, in my opinion, which is the front view. So look at this design here. What really struck me when I first saw this is something looks a little off with this design. Not in a bad way, just in an interesting way. And I think it has to do with, if we look at the positioning of the headlights right here, we don't want an airbrush for this, obviously. So if we look at the positioning of the headlights up here, they sit very high up on the front end, on the face of the car, and then the grille in the middle sits pretty low here in comparison to where the headlights are. This is pretty unique for this type of segment, and on top of that, you have these really sharp waves in the body that are super emphasized and pretty aggressive here with these type of lines, which I like because these are two distinct key lines in the front end that kind of connects in the corner pieces of the grille here, so we got some nice line flow. But what I wanted to do is just show you what I think if it were to be a less individual or unique design, what it could look like if we just move down the headlights, and this is the result. So I think this looks more subtle but also more boring. This looks like a regular, the most average crossover SUV you could find out, or a subcompact SUV in this case. So I really like that Honda decided to do something different and kind of place the headlights up top, really high up. I guess when we look at the side view, we're going to have a look at that and see if they're actually in line or higher up than the taillights back there. I'm not really sure. And also, when the first thing I saw when I saw this, when I just zoom in on the headlight, this overall shape or outline of this headlight kind of reminds me of the Lamborghini Urus headlight. If we just add if for example this were to go something like this and then create a Y shape right here, that kind of looks like an Urus headlight to me, which is not bad, I guess. I kind of like that shape as well. But also a very unique feature in the graphics of the new HR-V with this daytime running light that goes like this, which we have in the Honda Civic as well. Other than that, we have these intakes right here on the side. It doesn't really connect to anything in the grille, but it still looks pretty cool. I like this design. It's a clean approach to, specifically if we compare it to the previous generation that we had here in the US. There was a 2022 model year for the HR-V, and I'm not sure what type of car that is. We don't have it here in the US, and I guess they just decided to update the 2019 HR-V for some markets for the model year 2022. It really doesn't make sense to me. If you know what the situation is with the 2022 HR-V, let me know in the comments below. But we did not get that here in the US. We got this one, and this looks a lot more complex and complicated, just like the Honda Civic as well. The old generation of the Honda Civic compared to the new one is like night and day in design philosophy and in the simplicity of the styling and the approach to the overall design language of Honda. I definitely prefer that they go back to a simpler design like this. So let's have a look at the rear view. This is as traditional or as conservative as you get when you look at the rear view of the HR-V. Same thing here, beautiful tail light. I really like that it's kind of smoked out here. I think it's smoked out because it looks very dark, and then you have the same treatment of the rear graphics like we have in the Honda Civic, and also it goes back a little bit to the front end graphics as well. Nothing crazy going on in this design, but it still just feels like a Honda in all aspects, the proportions, the styling, and one little detail that I love about this new HR-V is this shoulder line. You have a sharp shoulder line right underneath the greenhouse. You can barely see it here, but if we zoom in, you can see that it has this nice shoulder, and then also this line down here going into the rear bumpers like that, just a little fading in and then goes back into the rear bumper. I think it's a beautiful car. Looking at the side view, let's have a look at the headlights, if they're actually in line with the taillights. Well, as you can see, they actually sit a little lower than the taillights, but at the same time, it feels like they sit very high up. Maybe not from the side view. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the grille sits pretty low as well, and the headlights maybe sit a little higher than you would expect them to. In comparing it again to the Honda Civic, I think this is a great, really cool design language and DNA that Honda is creating now for their new cars. Simple, stepping back from this overstyle that reached its peak, I would say, with the previous generation Civic Type R. Comparing the graphics in the front end to the Honda Civic, I think this is almost a very cool transition from the graphics of a sedan into the graphics of a small SUV. The headlights have similar proportions to them, as you can see right here, and then you have the graphic features, with being this lower intake in the bottom being the same on the Honda Civic, although a little bit different since it is an SUV. You have the grille being a lot narrower, which suits a sedan, but also it suits it to be a little bigger like this that we have on the HR-V, and the side intakes being similar in the size right here to create and to bring in the family DNA in both of these models of the Honda HR-V and the Civic. To me, this is a good direction for Honda to go. They're doing something unique here because they're very conservative, and traditional lines, for example these lines and then the shoulder line up here, lines that we've seen for decades moving back, but at the same time they're working hard on their graphics to still create something unique for the brand.